This is the IUX Education Podcast, your shortcut to smarter trading and investing.
Where complex markets become simple. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into a really extraordinary story.
Yeah, it's packed with resilience, some, staggering losses, and then this spectacular comeback.
Exactly. We're looking at Pierre Andurand. Now, you might know him as an oil trader, sure.
But there's so much more there.
Right. His journey offers these really profound insights into adapting, learning, thriving under immense pressure.
And that's really our mission here, isn't it? To sort of extract the core lessons from what he went through.
Check.
It's not just what he did in the markets, though that's fascinating. It's more about the why. Why, his mindset, his strategies, how they evolved, how that allowed him to turn, real adversity into huge success.
In energy trading, which is notoriously volatile.
Absolutely. So this isn't just a market story, really. It's kind of a blueprint for navigating, any tough patch you might hit.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The surprising thing about Andurand, maybe, is where he started. It wasn't high finance?
No, not at all. Believe it or not, he was actually a national-level swimmer back in France.
Which is amazing when you think about it. I mean, imagine the discipline.
Oh, totally. The grueling training day after day.
That relentless focus on tiny improvements, that intense competitiveness.
Right, and those aren't just physical things, are they? That's mental muscle being built, quietly, consistently.
Preparing him, maybe without him even realizing it, for the kind of mental game trading demands.
It's a fascinating link, I think. That discipline definitely went beyond the pool. He didn't just train his body, he trained his brain like an Olympian, too.
So his academics reflected that same kind of rigor.
Absolutely. He tackled physics first, then advanced maths, and topped it off with a master's in international finance.
Wow. Okay. Not the easy route.
Definitely not. It gave him this really solid intellectual foundation, thinking like a physicist about market dynamics, looking for underlying patterns, not just reacting.
That's different. And his early career.
Also, key stepping stones. Started at Goldman Sachs like a financial boot camp, really? Then moved to Vital, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, oil trading houses globally. Super high stakes, kind of opaque world.
Vital must have been crucial, giving him that insight into the physical side of things.
Exactly. The actual flow of oil, the infrastructure, the real supply-demand nuts and bolts that pure financial traders often miss.
Okay, so he's got the athletic discipline, the hardcore academic background, the top-tier experience.
Yeah, the whole package, you'd think.
And here's where it gets, really interesting. Because when he finally decides to go out on his own, it didn't exactly go smoothly right away.
No, it didn't. That initial step, it wasn't just a small stumble. It was a pretty big test that ultimately kind of reshaped everything for him.
So tell us about that first venture, BlueGold, right?
Yeah, BlueGold Capital launched in 2008. And the start was just unbelievable.
Oh, so?
First year, returns over 200%.
Get out. Seriously.
Seriously. That kind of performance puts you on the map instantly.
Yeah.
But it can also, maybe breed a little bit of overconfidence.
I can imagine. And that sets the stage for what came next, I guess.
It really does. Because that incredible high just made the fall feel even more dramatic.
Right. So the turning point, 2011.
2011. The oil market went haywire, really turbulent, and BlueGold got hit hard, massive losses.
The market just didn't do what he expected.
Pretty much. The volatility caught him out. But what's really remarkable here is how he handled it, his honesty about it.
He didn't try to spin it.
Not at all. He openly admitted, I was overconfident, said he misjudged the market, let that early success cloud his thinking.
Wow. That takes guts, especially in that world.
It really does. Imagine facing that kind of public, financial, personal setback. The easy thing is to blame the market, blame external factors, anything but yourself.
Right. It was irrational, black swan event, whatever.
Exactly. But he didn't do that. And this is what's so fascinating. He didn't point fingers. He chose, humility, self-reflection.
So he didn't just, brush it off.
No, he dug deep, learned from it, reflected on what went wrong in his process, his decision-making, his risk management.
Okay.
And this is almost unheard of. He voluntarily shut the fund down.
Voluntarily, even though it was still managing billions.
Yep. Think about that. After that meteoric start, to just stop. Because he recognized fundamental flaws in his approach. That takes incredible accountability.
And that's really rare, especially in finance, which can be quite ego-driven?
Massively so. It shows this commitment to long-term success over, short-term pride,
Right.
understanding that sometimes you have to retreat, reset, rebuild.
Okay, so that's a huge moment. Shutting down Blue Gold, most people might just leave the industry after that.
You'd think so, right? Such a public, humbling experience.
But he didn't. He came back, launched Andurand Capital. So the comeback, what was different this time? What did he change?
It wasn't just a tweak. It was fundamental, a whole strategic shift, really.
Okay.
The new Andurand Capital was designed to be leaner, much more focused, and critically, it was revamped to be way more adaptive and macro-aware.
Leaner focused, macro aware. Let's break that down. Leaner means
More agile, less bureaucracy, able to move quickly. Focused meant really doubling down on energy, his core expertise, but seeing it through a wider lens.
and macro aware. That sounds key. What does that mean in practice for an oil trader?
It meant looking way beyond just the daily supply and demand numbers. It meant building these really complex scenario models,
Okay.
models that factored in these big global systemic things like geopolitical tensions, health crises, think pandemics, even the long-term shifts from climate change policies.
So stuff that might take months or years to play out, but would eventually hit the energy markets hard.
Exactly. How would those big forces ripple through? How would they change supply chains, consumption, maybe even spark new tech that affects demand?
Right, so he's trying to anticipate the really big shifts, not just the next week's price move.
Precisely. Connecting the dots on a much bigger scale. It gave him this unique edge, trying to figure out how these tectonic forces would reshape the whole landscape, asking, what if this happens? What if that region destabilizes?
And then came the ultimate test for that new strategy, 2020.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a dramatic stage. COVID hits. The world basically shuts down.
Global oil demand just falls off a cliff.
Plummets. And then the unbelievable happens. Oil prices go negative for the first time ever.
Which is still kind of hard to wrap your head around. What did that actually mean, negative prices?
Yeah, it was surreal. It basically meant producers were so desperate they'd pay you to take their oil.
Pay me. Why?
Because storage was completely full. Lockdowns meant nobody was using this stuff. Planes weren't flying, people weren't driving. Tankers, pipelines, storage tanks everywhere were overflowing.
So they had nowhere to put it.
Nowhere. And shutting down wells is super expensive and complicated, so for a short, crazy period, it was cheaper to pay someone to haul the oil away.
Wow. A clear sign of just how extreme that demand shock was.
Absolutely. Driven by those big macro forces he was tracking.
And here's the kicker, right? While everyone's reeling from this chaos,
Yeah.
Andurand was positioned for it.
Exactly. That's the stunning result. His revamped macro-aware strategy had anticipated a potential collapse like this.
So he actually profited.
Massively.
Okay.
The fund returned over 150% in 2020, one of the few big winners in a year of financial pain for many.
Incredible. And it wasn't just a one-off lucky guess.
Doesn't seem like it. He basically repeated the success in 2022 during that post-COVID energy crisis. It really underscores his ability to call these major macro energy cycles multiple times.
Okay, that's a powerful testament to his framework. So, stepping back, what does this all mean for us? What are the core lessons here? What really sets him apart?
I think it boils down to a few absolutely crucial things, and they really combine to form a kind of blueprint, not just for trading, but maybe for any field needing foresight and adaptability.
Okay, like what?
First, maybe most important, his ability to evolve. It's not like he just has one strategy he sticks to no matter what. He's got this, you could call it a learning engine, built into his mindset, always absorbing, integrating, refining.
So after the 2011 losses, he didn't just tweak things.
No, he totally reevaluated how he formed his views, spent months talking to economists, climate scientists, geopolitical analysts, building this really broad interdisciplinary understanding.
Which raises a good question for anyone listening.
Yeah.
How do you build that kind of adaptable mindset in your own work or life?
Yeah, being truly open to new information, especially stuff that challenges what you thought you knew. Second big thing, his obsession almost with understanding why the market might be wrong.
He doesn't just follow the crowd.
Not at all. He actively looks for the blind spots, the consensus views that maybe miss something crucial, especially in energy, which is so complex.
So while others read headlines, he's digging deeper.
Exactly. Looking at obscure shipping data, satellite images of spillage tanks, weird political shifts, hunting for those fundamental disconnects where he can take a contrarian stance and be right.
Okay, makes sense. What else?
Third, that intense risk control he put in place after the BlueGold losses. It wasn't casual. He completely rebuilt his playbook.
His playbook, meaning his rules for managing money.
Yeah, exactly. How you size positions, when you cut losses. After 2011, it meant strict limits, super tight stop losses, and this almost automatic process for getting out quick if things turn. He learned protecting your capital is vital.
Living to fight another day.
That's the mantra. And finally, maybe related to the learning engine, his courage to change his mind.
Which many people see as a weakness, right? Flip-flopping.
Yeah, but he sees it, and I think rightly, as a strength. Especially in volatile markets, flexibility is key.
So if new data comes in that contradicts his view?
He'll pivot, even if he just put on the trade. It's not indecision, it's intellectual honesty. Markets change, so you have to be willing to change with them.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a fascinating picture of resilience and adaptation. And there was that fun fact.
Oh, yeah. Just add another layer. He's apparently a significant art investor, modern contemporary stuff. And maybe even more surprising, he was a producer on that Oscar-winning documentary, Icarus.
The doping one. Well.
Yeah, it just shows this breadth of curiosity, doesn't it? He's clearly not just a numbers guy, engages with complex stories across different fields.
It really adds another dimension. Suggests maybe a mind that sees patterns and narratives everywhere.
Could be. Perhaps it informs that holistic approach he takes to markets too, seeing the bigger story.
So just to wrap this up then, his journey, it really goes beyond oil or futures trading.
Absolutely. Fundamentally, it's about grit, isn't it? Bouncing back.
Yeah, and the courage not just to rebuild, but to totally rethink things when you get knocked down hard.
It's a real testament to continuous learning, especially learning from failure. True expertise comes from that relentless adaptation.
Definitely.
So, maybe a provocative thought for everyone listening as we finish this deep dive. Losses don't define you. Discipline does. Maybe reflect on where in your own life, work, projects, personal growth, that lesson of resilience, that rigorous self-assessment, that disciplined adaptation, where could that be most impactful for you right now?
How can you turn a setback into maybe your greatest strategic advantage?
Exactly. Something to think about.
Great thought to end on. Until next time, stay curious, stay flexible in your thinking, and keep learning.
And this is the IUX Education Podcast, where trading confidence begins.
That's a wrap for today. This episode was brought to you by IUX Trading Platform, your trusted partner for smarter investing.